What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and I just got done watching Bethesda's press conference for E3 2017, and I'm a bit conflicted. Really, there was less than I was expecting to a big degree, but it was still a good conference overall. I'm going to do things a little bit backwards than they did. They opened up talking about card games in VR. I found this to be the most boring part, so I'm going to talk about that at the end. Let's open up with what they actually showed that was the most important. 3 big sequels. We're getting Quake Champions, which looks pretty freaking legit, obviously, if you've played the beta. We're getting a new Wolfenstein called Wolfenstein 2, the New Colossus, and we're getting a new Evil Within. Evil Within 2. Let's start with that, because obviously I love the Evil Within. If you're one of my really old school subscribers, way back in 2014, when I first decided that I wanted to review video games, that was one of the first videos I ever did. I loved it. It's done by a guy who helped invent the Resident Evil franchise, and it really had that essence of raw horror. But something that was a little bit strange about that game is that they tried to lock in a sense of confusion. Sebastian, the hero, doesn't know what's going on, and they keep switching environments and monsters, keeping him on his toes. This time, it looks like they want to just go deep, deep into insanity. They don't care about anything seeming realistic or seeming like it could be real. We see monsters stabbing people and time slowing down until blood is literally freezing in midair. We see shadows moving across the screen, and all of a sudden there's a million bodies hanging from the sky. We see eyes coming out of pools of milk. I like that they're taking this direction. It looks so different. This is what the sequel to a horror game should be. It also looks like we're going to be getting some actual backstory this time. Now, I love the first game a lot. In fact, I even individually reviewed each piece of the DLC just because I thought that the overall plot was so intriguing. This time, though, we're actually going finally to get really in-depth into the nitty-gritty of Sebastian, his past, his missing wife, and his dead kid. We're getting to figure out more about this by going back into the STEM machine. Now, if you didn't play the first game, it's sort of like the Matrix. It turns out that he's deep in this machine, living out this super advanced psychosis. He's hallucinating it, so to speak. He's inside somebody else's brain. It looks like for this sequel, we're going into Sebastian's brain. We're going to see his deepest, darkest nightmares. We're going to see what keeps him up at night. Now let's talk about Wolfenstein 2, the New Colossus. This looks so cool. It looks bigger and better and in a totally different setting. Now, if you played Wolfenstein the Old Blood or Wolfenstein the New Order, you know that those took place mostly over in Europe. These were all about taking on the Nazis in an alternate history where they actually won World War II and now had advanced technologies like crazy robots and stuff. For the sequel, we're bringing it home. This is going to be set in America. And in America where the Nazis have taken over everything, possibly long ago, but the Americans aren't happy about it. This is so cool looking because they showed us just how unhappy all the Americans are. We see like a scene of a Nazi guard coming in and talking to a guy and getting an ice cream in an ice cream parlor. There's just this subtle distrust, this uneasiness to the situation that shows that people are ready to revolt, but they're not quite empowered enough to do it. So you, playing as BJ Blazkowicz, are going to start the revolution that this country so badly needs. By joining together with a secret resistance party, it looks like we're going to be doing targeted assaults on all sorts of Nazi bases to steal back technology and have our own uprising of the American people. I cannot wait to do this. Mostly because it looks like there's going to be actually a little bit of vehicle combat this time. I saw him literally getting on what looks like a giant robot puma that breathes fire and just literally walking through the streets and be like, "Hey bro, oh flamethrowing, oh hey bro, oh flamethrowing." That was so freaking legit. I cannot wait to play that. It doesn't look like they're going to be shaking up the overall game mechanics or really adding anything super new, but I don't need that. Wolfenstein already played perfect. I just wanted a little bit more of a fun environment to take shit on, and that's what this is. The only thing that really surprised me during all their announcements was a Dishonored spin-off. It's called Death to the Outsider. Now, if you've never played any of the Dishonored games, you have this dark magic that lets you teleport around, kill 2 people at once, rip out souls, all sorts of crazy stuff like that, and it's given to you by this shadowy figure who seems ageless. It seems like this almost dark god who likes to sow unrest among different societies. He's a pretty cool looking character, but we've never really known what the hell he is or what this weird dimension he exists in. It now looks like we're going to be doing a sort of DLC spin-off of just going to kill that motherfucker. And whoa! I never would have thought of that. Like, that's just such a deep-cut, interesting piece of the universe that I never would have fathomed. I am going to play the heck out of that, especially because we're playing as Bobby. Now, if you haven't played the games, Bobby is like this character who, I mean, she's had a rough life. People have tried to kill her so many times. She has a robot arm because they've sawed her limbs off. She's got a robot eye because they gouged her eye out while torturing her. That's my cat shaking her collar. It's just been such a hell of a time. So seeing her take on her own personal vendetta against this dark creature is epic, to say the least. And she's teaming up with Dowd from the Dishonored 1 DLC. So yes, count me in 1000%. The other thing that was pretty cool was Quake Champions. I've been playing the beta quite a bit, as I'm sure most of you have. It's free, but it's only on PC right now. Now, what I didn't like about how they were advertising it is they were really pushing the esports side of things. I really don't like that companies are trying to do this. They're trying to force things to be considered this epic, high-level competition thing, even before the game is out. Let the community, let the people who play your game decide if they want to compete, instead of trying to form e-leagues and announce major competitions, because that's what they're doing. Before this game is even released, it's going to have a major world competition right here where I live in Dallas, Texas, in just a couple months. That seems so backwards and weird. I mean, I'm going to go to it and watch it and cheer on fans and stuff, but that seems so backwards. Shouldn't your game be out and loved before you start making arenas and having people fight each other for money? Maybe that's just me, but it's a bit behind itself. The last thing that they went into was a Elder Scrolls card game, which they really went in depth about. Even they had this crazy dramatic trailer called Elder Scrolls Legends, and I'm not going to play this at all. I'm not even going to research it. I'm not a trading card game person. I don't get it. Then they showed a really extended trailer for Elder Scrolls Morrowind. It's the new expansion for Elder Scrolls Online. Congratulations, I already knew about it. I didn't need you to take up time during your E3 show, but there it is. Now, the last two things they showed were both VR related. Fallout 4 VR and Doom VFR. These are both kind of cool, but I think Fallout 4 seems to be doing it much better. Fallout is obviously an RPG, so it can be a bit slower. It can be a bit more methodical, because when you're doing stuff in VR, it does have to be slower. It has to be a little bit more concerted and more purposeful, because if you ever have worn VR glasses, when stuff's going like this, it gives you movement sickness in a hurry. And that's why I think Doom VFR looks really slowed down and trimmed down. It looks like they've taken out 80% of the enemies in every single level, and you can no longer just move with a joystick. Instead, in order to move in Doom VFR, you're going to aim your left like a waving wand and click on the ground, and you'll teleport to that location. So because of it, they had to take out almost all the bad guys. There were literally scenes where there's one demon standing in the middle of an empty hallway, and he teleports up and punches it in the face. And I understand that they had to do this, but is anybody really going to want to try that? It just looks so dumbed down. And I hate to use that word. I hate to use that because Doom is such a good game and VR is such an interesting tool, but I don't really know if this is the proper mix. Fallout 4? Hell yeah. That I would totally play the heck out of. The last thing I want to talk about is something they showed just real quickly, which is Skyrim on Switch. It looks like they're actually adding in a little bit of content. I mean, it's not a ton, but the most interesting thing is that it's actually going to work with amiibos. By getting your Zelda amiibos, you'll actually be able to wave them over your Nintendo Switch and get special unlockables like Link's tunic. You'll be able to use Link's tunic as armor or wield the Master Sword in Skyrim. That is so cool. And you know what? I think it's going to have most of the DLC. So if you have the humongous, giant 10,000 page strategy guide like I do, then that means you can now do all of this while humming the Zelda theme song. Overall, this press conference was interesting and it had some nice tidbits, but it was a little bit lacking in overall content. What they did show was epic. What I'm going to play is going to be fantastic, but how they showed it was not exactly my cup of tea. Overall, I'm going to give this a B-. Not exactly a bad showing. I definitely wouldn't mind watching it again. In fact, obviously, I'm going to have to watch the whole thing again while I'm editing this video. But it definitely needed a little bit more flair. I kind of wish it had at least one big twist. Something that left people tweeting and wondering what the heck could possibly be coming next. Well guys, this has been another E3 rant from DreamcastGuy. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. If you're curious about my other E3 videos, you can click right here to see what I thought about the Xbox conference, and right here to look at the EA conference. They were both pretty interesting, but yeah, they messed up. They messed up some stuff. But yeah, you can click over here and see what's up with that.